My fellow Americans, I'm pleased to tell you today that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
It is essential that our team learns to work with our new recruit, not against him.
I'm a geek, walking down the street.
Check the computer.
The mainframe computer. I access the mainframe.
At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall. Time to find out.
Welcome to Basically a Geek Show. Here are your hosts, Mike and Jack.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 15 of Basically a Geek Show. We're going to start off this episode a bit differently from others. Instead of just jumping right in, we're going to address some feedback we got on our last episode, particularly in regards to Power Rangers.
I regret nothing.
A acquaintance of Jack's from a forum called Scribble File. It is a creative writing forum. Asked who my favorite Power Ranger was. The answer to that is Jason, the original Red Ranger. He kicked ass, and Tommy was just some, small timer who showed up and hogged all the glory. So that is my answer to that. But Jack, we actually got some pushback against your perhaps less flattering take on Power Rangers.
I get it that, giant combining robots are a Japanese thing. I get it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I really do. And, that fact is certainly not lost on me. However, I don't take anything back. I still, okay, the whole color coordination and the animal thing and the, and even just, I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, Wild Wing 64, one of our loyal listeners from the British Isles, actually, pointed out that the roots of the Power Ranger franchise, the Japanese Super Sentai series, actually predate the anime that Voltron was based off of, called Go Lion. And he also pointed out that both Go Lion, that anime that Voltron came from, and the shows that spawned Power Rangers were actually both produced by the same company. So not so much a ripoff as much as it was,
a clone?
Pardon?
A clone?
Not so much a clone. It's just like, hey, we're this Japanese production company, and giant color-coded combining robots are piloted by teenagers are kind of our thing.
And yet, couldn't we have just done it right and brought back like a Voltron animated series that didn't have rap at the beginning?
I'm gonna say that Voltron series that they introduced that rap theme. I'm gonna say that rap theme is probably the reason we're getting a Power Rangers reboot and not a Voltron movie, because that rap theme probably set the Voltron franchise back 10 years.
I wish I could disagree. But I can't.
I mean, what probably happened...
It probably killed it permanently, to be honest with you.
I mean, what probably happened was, they're some Hollywood boardroom, like, they're kicking around ideas for what they can, like, remake or reboot. And someone's like, no one's done a Voltron movie yet. Well, it's like, okay, well, what's the latest Voltron series? Let's take a look at that to see where the franchise is now. So, they play the opening to, like, the first episode of that new Voltron series, and the rap opening hits. And the studio executive is like, I never want to hear the word Voltron again. And then he walks out of the room.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, okay. I get it. They have... Well, okay. The thing is, perception in many cases is reality. Mm-hmm. Now, unless you are more in the know about animes and Japanese pop culture trends and such like that of a historical nature, which most of us, granted, are not. I probably know less than you. I know more than the average person who knows nothing. And, I mean, the perception, I mean, I am not the first nor the last person to have said Voltron or, Power Rangers is a Voltron knockoff. And that's just the way it looks because in the American consciousness, in the Western end of things, you know, we see that we're like, oh, hey, yeah, wasn't that Voltron?
Well, to be fair, the user who pointed this out, WildWing64, is British, and apparently, I did not know this, but, he informed me that in the United Kingdom, Voltron was never really a thing. So by the time they got Power Rangers, they hadn't had that Voltron connection.
I got you.
And again, you know, both concepts were kind of originated by the same company, so it's like probably just one guy who really likes the idea of color-coordinated combining robots and just kind of spewed it into every franchise they were working on. It's like, didn't you just do this for that anime we were doing? No. That was like anime. This is like live action. I'm gonna do it again, cause it's like cool.
Live is a bit of a generous statement. I mean, there's tons of other things that make the Power Rangers shit. I mean,
Boo.
Okay.
I was sick last week, so I couldn't fully muster the energy to stand up to you in your Power Rangers bashing, but I'm feeling much better now. And yeah, no. Power Rangers, you gotta tread lightly, Power Rangers, man. That's part of my childhood.
I don't care. I don't care. I mean, okay, I'm not saying that it didn't have its fun moments. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, and I know Power Rangers is not the only series to do this. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying though, okay, Voltron got a little bit more of a pass for this with me because it was animated and they could do things that were at least a little more interesting in the time when Voltron wasn't kicking things as asses. But in Power Rangers, it's just a bunch of fucking stupid ass teenagers hanging around. And the whole thing was just
in color coded outfits, so even.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, okay, I don't need to say anything else, and this right here is going to hurt you to the core, and I kind of apologize, but I kind of don't.
No,
I don't. Paranormal Activity had better production value.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Power Rangers had a unique production model using the Sentai footage. I'm just saying there were factors that, in my opinion, account for the lackluster production standards. And besides, before you continue, I want to say, how can you hate a show that gave us this? I'm sending you a link over Skype. I want you to take a look at that link, and I want to say, how can you hate a show that gave us that?
Which brings me to my next point. And the scene that he linked me is a GIF of pumpkin-headed, huh?
I think it's GIF is the
whatever, potato of pumpkin-headed Power Rangers beating the living shit out of each other.
I can't remember that episode particularly, so I can't inform the context, but I'm sure there's context that explains it.
Now, what this brings me to is my next point that I was about to make. Mm-hmm. If you had just not taken Sentai footage and instead replaced it with hentai footage, then we might be going somewhere.
I'm sure you can find your hentai footage elsewhere on the internet, sir.
I'm just saying, you know, it's, God damn it. And also, there's about 10 years of difference in age gap between you and I.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, by the time Power Rangers came out, I was a teenager, early teens. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I did give it a chance. I even went to see the fucking, goddamn movie in the theaters.
Okay, even I'll say that movie was goddamn garbage, and
it was.
I don't think I've met. I don't even think I've seen very many Power Rangers fans defend it really all that much. It's kind of just a bad excuse.
My rationale at the time was that it's the closest I was going to get to seeing a Godzilla movie in the theater, and that's like saying that a turd is going to be the closest thing you're ever going to get to roast beef. But, you know, I went and seen it, and it of course sucked. And I had watched the show from time to time because let's face it, back then when you didn't have 70 bajillion goddamn channels, and when you got home from school or whatever, it was okay. Well, at least it's not Oprah, and so there you are.
I will say, okay, there is one thing I will say about the movie that I like. I like they gave Lord Zed's costume a very minor but much needed facelift, so he unfortunately, they didn't even use him as the villain. He got written out 10 minutes into the goddamn movie, so we didn't even get to see very much of his, cool new getup. And then, they gave the Power Rangers Control Center a much needed, facelift. They kind of gave it a proper set piece instead of, the show, which was kind of just like a blank screen of Zordon and a few control panels. They actually made it look like a control center. So visually, a lot of the visual cues, I'd say, in the movie were decent. The problem just was that it was a shit script and it was just bad.
Though I will point out that none of my distaste for the franchise in general or the previous incarnations, none of that's, really coloring my bias one way or the other on the movie. I mean, it's going to be its own thing, and those memories of what they've done to my mental image of what a kaiju can be have somewhat been abated.
We're going to talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. And, so I'll give it a shot. I'll catch a matinee showing or what the fuck ever and, see where it goes. But, I'm sorry. I mean, I appreciate, our British friends, patronage and his long time listening. Good on you, man. But, I gotta stand firm. I just, Power Rangers just, no pun intended, left a bad taste in my mouth.
Aww. Well, sir, any damage Power Rangers might have done to you in regards to the kaiju genre, I'm sure what we're about to talk about made up for that.
It did.
And it's very appropriate that this is episode 15, because if you take 15, you double it, you get 30. And when I first looked at Godzilla, up from the depths, 30 stories.
Shut the fuck up. God damn it. I hate everything you choose to be.
Godzilla Power Hour, man. Godzilla Power Hour. But
though at least you didn't do what I thought you were going to do, which is, it's the 60th anniversary. So, if you take 15, you double it, you get 30, and then you double that, and you get 60, and 60!
Is it the 60th anniversary of Godzilla?
Yes, 1954.
Oh, that's interesting, actually, because I think two. I'm not saying the two longest, but two of the longest running film series are Godzilla and James Bond.
Yeah.
And Godzilla's latest movie came out in its 60th anniversary, and the last James Bond movie, Skyfall, came out on Bond's 50th anniversary. So interesting how that worked out. Anyhow, let's get to it. Both you and I saw Godzilla on the same day, opening day on this past Friday.
Yep.
And so I have my thoughts on it, but you're the big Godzilla fan between us, so I'll just start off with you, Jack. What did you think of Godzilla, open bracket 2014, close bracket?
Well, 16 years ago, a flaming dildo of hatred was stuck in the ass of my childhood.
Would this have been inserted by one Mr. Roland Emmerich?
Yeah. I mean, most people equate, when they say the loss of their innocence, they equate it with losing their virginity. No. I lost it in 1998 in a movie theater. There was no sex involved. Just Matthew Broderick.
Show me where Matthew Broderick touched you.
And, this not only made up for that, I'll be honest, it's really hard for me to say bad things about this movie. And for anyone who'd say, okay, well, you're just a big Godzilla fan, so of course you're going to like it. Not true.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you remember the conversations we had about this before we knew much about, like a couple years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know how apprehensive I was about this.
Yes.
And had it sucked, I would be on here and I would be raging and I would be using profane words that probably none of our listeners, including yourself, would understand. But that's not the case. You're less into the Godzilla thing than I am, but I think I can safely say that not only is it the best Godzilla movie we've had in probably 30 years, it is also a good, decent action movie on its own right. There were things about it that I thought could have been done better. And some of you may recall my previous rants about, God damn it, if I go to a monster movie, I go to it to see giant fucking monsters smash shit. I don't care about your human drama and all this other garbage. I really don't care. You're insignificant. I want to see monsters blow shit up. Mm-hmm. If I want to see human drama, I can go see any other goddamn movie. Mm-hmm. And I will say this does come close to crossing that line. It does.
It is very human heavy, and Godzilla, they tease him a bit, but you really don't see him in full until about an hour in to the movie.
Yeah. But now what saves it from doing that, I think, is the fact that, one, you do get something. You do get the Mutos. You do get to see those.
Yeah, those would be the original monsters created to fight Godzilla.
Right. And we'll discuss that here in a moment, but you do get to see them, and so that kind of helps. Most of the plot-centric things that are going on, it's not so much human drama. You see Bryan Cranston, who is, props to him. He's awesome. He does his thing. And then they up and fucking kill Breaking Bad in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, that shocked me because the trailers would have you believe that he is the main human star of this thing, and he is not.
And did you stand up and just yell, "Oh my God, they killed Steve Martin"?
Oh, no.
Bryan Cranston is Steve Martin.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, he basically is. Like, they can call him whatever I think his name was Joe.
Yeah, at first I thought the kid's name was Joe.
No, the kid's name is Ford.
Right.
Yeah.
Which would have been really funny if his middle name was Prefect. Yes, I went there.
No. I stand by what I said on an earlier episode. If you're a white guy and you're starring in a Godzilla movie, you're Steve Martin. That is who you are.
Which, speaking of white guys, we'll get to that here in a little bit. So, they kill off Cranston in the first 20 minutes. The 20 minutes that he is on screen are really good.
He does do a great job of what he's given.
He's good enough to make me be like, okay, normally, basically, I guess, yes, the court will allow this. Go on, Mr. Cranston. And make me not hate those 20 minutes that I'm not seeing a monster.
Yeah.
He does that, and that's really hard to do with me in a kaiju flick. So props to the man for that. One of the best performances I've seen this year, actually. Most of the other movies I've seen this year, at the best, I've kind of thought, I wouldn't kick out of bed for eating crackers, I guess, but it's not something I'd want to form a long-term relationship with.
He does a very good job playing Bill Burns from Monster Quest.
You mean UFO Hunters?
Yes, UFO Hunters, yes.
But yeah, so, there was that. Most of the other non-monster shit going on the screen, at least in some aspect, involves something about the monsters, though. And that helps a lot, too. You're kind of finding out about them. You're seeing what they're doing, even if only secondhand. And I think that really helped, for me at least, the pacing of the movie. And it's not like some of the Toho flicks, God love them, it's a bunch of people sitting around eating dinner or drinking coffee or some kid wandering around doing stupid shit. And You don't get that in this. Most of the time when the monster is not on the screen, they're talking about what the monster is going to do, how they're going to deal with it, so on and so forth. And so you at least, even though you're not seeing the monster, you're getting that feeling that yes, it is out there. You know, nothing is normal right now. Oh my God, shit just got real. And so you get that, and that really helps a lot. I thought the movie had a lot of very good pacing. I know some people said, oh, you know, this movie will put you to sleep. Look, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I really don't. I thought it had really good pacing. The human characters weren't annoying. I know Kick-Ass, Aaron Taylor Johnson, though it really annoys me when people use 3 names. Use 2 like the rest of us. You're not special. But, you know, Kick-Ass, he's gotten a lot of shit over his performance.
I don't think he did a bad job. I mean,
yeah, no. The way they're making it sound like he was like fucking Will and Jaden Smith in After Earth. And,
oh God, no.
You know, that's the way these people are talking about him, and I don't think so. You know, I think maybe you don't like his interpretation of the character, or you don't like the way he portrayed it per se, but he was kind of, you know, he was portraying a valid way of dealing with a situation like that, with a disaster.
Yeah.
And that is, you just kind of go inside yourself a bit. You seem stoic, maybe even not carrying on the outside, because you don't have time for that. And this guy's a soldier. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have time to be arsed with all this shit going on emotionally. You know, his dad dying, the separation from his wife, and all that other shit. You know, he's got things he's got to do. And actually, a lot of it is his single-minded focus on getting to his wife. And, you know, he just happens to be following the monster conveniently. The thing that everyone else has agreed pretty much unanimously on is that, you know, the scenes where the monsters are fighting and Godzilla is there are just absolutely goddamn brilliant. I haven't heard anyone say that they weren't.
Now,
nobody hates that.
Now, I want to talk about the complaints that Godzilla, there's not enough of him in, that it takes a while for him to show up. Considering that this is the first film in what will likely be a rebooted series, I'm okay with that, considering the fact that the first ever Godzilla movie, simply titled Godzilla, and then the 1956 Americanized version, Godzilla King of the Monsters, in both cases, it's the slow burn of Godzilla. Godzilla doesn't show up for a while in those films either. So, to me, it's a valid part of the franchise that when you're starting things off, you want to make the audience wait to see the main monster.
Right. And that's not just with Godzilla or, you know, that first Godzilla movie. That's a play out of Toho's book that they've used, well, for 60 years. Mm-hmm. You know, if Godzilla's fighting another monster, you almost always see the other monster first. Mm-hmm. And that's how they kind of, you know, they save it for that last 1/3 or 1/4 of the movie. And you'll get bits and pieces of Godzilla throughout, but for the real showdown, you wait till the end. And, you know, that's the case here. It almost directly follows Toho's playbook, mm-hmm. pretty much by the letter. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't seen very many Godzilla movies, I can see where you'd be like, well, what the fuck? Because we had Pacific Rim. And Pacific Rim was nonstop action, the whole fucking thing. And it was great for that. And I'm actually not going to say which one was better, because I don't really think you can compare the two. They're trying to do different things. But people have Pacific Rim fresh in their mind, like, hey, this ain't the way it was in Pacific Rim. Well, no, because this isn't Pacific Rim. This is Godzilla. And, you know, Gareth Edwards, he did follow the formula. He followed it to the fucking T. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is obviously being debated. Would I have liked to have seen more Godzilla in the Godzilla movie? Fuck yes, I would. I'm not stupid. Do I think the movie suffered for it? No, not really.
And of course, you like what you did see of Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. I admit I did too. What did you think of the design of the Mutos, the original monsters created for the film?
Thank fuck. When I seen that Bandai toy, I was like, oh God, what the? And I even said on the show, I'm like, well, hopefully it's just Bandai making a shitty toy. And
Bandai of America generally does that.
Yeah, and you know, the actual product on screen will be a lot better. And it was. It was really interesting. I know that going into this, Gareth Edwards had said that, you know, they want a new kaiju, something that, you know, you could look at and you could be like, yeah, Toho probably would have made that, you know, but they didn't. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to find something new, which is really hard to do in this case. I mean, and I think they did it. Everything was fairly unique about them. Mm-hmm. I thought the Mutos were really awesome. I thought they made a pretty decent opponent for Godzilla. And,
their EMP attack was interesting.
It was. That's something, again, that you haven't seen before. It's something that, and it very much reflects a modern threat, not just a nuclear threat. That, you know, oh my God, we're cavemen thing going on there where bitch ain't got no electricity.
Well, what I found interesting about it was that radiation obviously plays a theme in the Godzilla films. And an EMP pulse is one of the side effects of a nuclear bomb.
Right.
So it would almost seem natural for a Toho kaiju to use some sort of EMP attack if it had a nuclear origin, which many of their monsters do. But we haven't seen it before, so I thought it was neat in that it totally made sense within that self-contained Toho kaiju universe, but it was completely original at the same time.
Yeah, it was original up to and including the scene with the radioactive dildo.
That was okay. A lot of that was cute because like the male one and the female one, like they're doing like the head nuzzling thing.
Yeah,
that was adorable. For giant like city destroying monsters, that was adorable.
And yeah, and in case you're wondering, you know, dildo, what the hell are you talking about? Okay, so in case you haven't figured out, spoiler alert, herp derp. But yeah, so you know, the male Muto, which is one that can fly, he grabs a nuclear warhead
because these things basically feed off of radiation.
Yeah, and he takes it to the female to fertilize her eggs. I guess cocks are overrated or something. I don't know.
I don't know the reproductive specifics of giant radioactive monsters, so
I can't claim to be an authority in the subject either. But so what he does is he doesn't use, I guess, as a dildo, but it just kind of looks like it because it like gets shoved up in her egg sac, which is kind of hanging from that area. And it's like, what? Okay, sure, that's a thing that we just seen. It wasn't Devastator's balls level of absurd, and I get it in the because it wasn't presented as a dick joke. They probably didn't even intend it to be humorous at all. Just only to mine's as warped and demented as mine do I get an innuendo from it. But yeah, that's what I got from that scene. Though now, you know, I've babbled a bit here, and you are not all that. You're familiar with the Godzilla series for sure, but you're not as much into it as I am. What did you think of it?
Actually, in a lot of ways, Roland Emmerich killed my Godzilla fandom. When I was around 9, 10, 11, I was really into Godzilla as a concept. You know, back when we had blockbusters, I'd always, you know, whenever my parents would take me to Blockbuster, I'd be like, oh, I'll rent a Godzilla, one of the old Godzilla movies. So I saw a few of them. I had a friend who had a bunch of them on VHS that I used to watch, so I'm familiar with Godzilla. But then Roland Emmerich's movie came out, and the thing about Roland Emmerich's movie is that I didn't even hate it necessarily because I was like 10, 11 when it came out. So like kids don't fucking know any better. So I didn't hate the movie, but it's just that just maybe by coincidence or maybe subconsciously I knew it was a mistake. But my Godzilla interest in kaiju in general kind of declined for a while, almost immediately after seeing that movie. But as someone who's not as familiar with Godzilla, I liked it. Again, my familiarity with Godzilla King of the Monsters was what made the slow reveal of Godzilla okay with me, because I knew that was a thing that they had done. And, the Mutos, I actually really liked their design. Like you, I was a bit worried by that Bandai toy. Bandai of America is goddamn amateur hour. But, so the fact that they, ruined this is no surprise. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that design, when fully animated and when fully realized, looked pretty cool. I really dug the general design of the Mutos. My only real concern regarding the Mutos was that one of the Godzilla films that I did see and that I really liked was the one where he fights Rodan.
Right.
And the male Muto, at least, because he can fly, I mean, anything that you could possibly do with Rodan's already been done now with the male Muto. So I don't think we'll be getting Rodan anytime soon, because he would just be too similar to what the Mutos were. So, I'm a bit disappointed on that, because I really like Rodan. I think he's a much better opponent for Godzilla than goddamn Mothra. I don't get Mothra's appeal, I'll be perfectly honest. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but that's actually relatively minor. I very much enjoyed the movie. The slow burn worked for me. I thought that they did a good job at teasing the Godzilla versus Muto fight at the airport in Hawaii, which you really don't get to see a lot of, but what they do show is really well done. And I really liked Dr. Shirazawa, who is a returning character from the original Godzilla movie in 1954.
Yeah.
I really liked Ken Watanabe's portrayal of him. He did have the habit of he only talked in Godzilla trailer quotes.
Yes.
Like everything he said was always very hushed and very overly dramatic. Like when they're explaining the backstory, because it's established that in this new rebooted universe, it's established that the U.S. Navy essentially woke up Godzilla in 1954.
Oops.
And that all of the nuclear tests in the Pacific, like the announcements that they were tests, were just covers to cover up the fact that they were trying to nuke Godzilla and kill him. So, like, they reveal that after those tests, they set up this secret international organization basically dedicated to trying to study and keep track of these ancient monsters that they know are out there, but which they're trying to keep under wraps. And so they explain that bit of backstory. And then they're talking about Godzilla specifically. He was woken up in 1954. And then Ken Watanabe, Dr. Shirazawa, he just turns around and he goes, "We called it Godzilla." And it was just really dramatic. And then, like, later on, the U.S. Navy has this plan to get rid of the Mutos on Godzilla, and it really doesn't work. So the admiral who kind of put that plan together, he's talking with Dr. Shirazawa, and he goes, he's like, "Well, what should we do?" And then Dr. Shirazawa just goes, "We are foolish for believing that we control nature. Let them fight." And it's just and it's like, but everything he says, it's really dramatic and it's really cool, but yeah, he just talks entirely in Godzilla trailer quotes.
One thing, and I really did like Ken Watanabe's portrayal of Shirazawa. Yeah. It's definitely not the same Shirazawa from the 54 movie. Definitely not the same character. The only similarity is the name. Mm-hmm. And the thing with the nuke, I thought that was real funny. And I'll tell you two reasons. Mm. One, they've already established that nuclear weapons, radioactive material, are a lure for these Mutos. Well, hence the whole fucking idea. Hold on, I'm getting to something. There's a point. So, thing number one, yeah, you're going to be attacked en route with the damn thing.
Yes.
Two, and this is the kicker though. So, Kick-Ass says, "Hey, we're going to put an old school detonator on this bitch. That way, EMP pulse won't keep it from going off." Yeah. Except they forgot one thing. Yeah. The ship they were delivering it on is vulnerable to an EMP pulse. Yeah. So then you have that whole fucker out, and I just thought that was kind of funny. I mean, I guess I can't call it a plot hole, because it's later something that they have to work to resolve in the plot.
Yeah.
So the fact that someone was dumb enough to not see that was part of the plot.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny.
What I found to be funny, like you said, obviously the nuke is going to get attacked en route to its destination, and it is. And they're delivering it to the West Coast on a train, and something happens. They stop the train, and they're like, "Well, let's radio ahead." So like they radio ahead, like it's like,
oh God, the burning!
It's like, is the bridge clear? Over. And then like the radio like answers back, and you just hear like panicked screams and things crashing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, it hurts. And
what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, he's just like radioing ahead, and he's getting nothing but panicked, screams in response. And he's just like, well, I'm gonna go check out ahead. Excuse me? You just hear like the people ahead of you screaming in abject terror.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, that was interesting. Trying to think what else. Oh yes, speculation on my part. The organization that Dr. Shirazawa belongs to is called Monarch.
Yes.
I thought that was a bit random because it's just like a word and it doesn't have any reference to monsters or anything. My theory is that eventually they will be responsible for the creation of King Ghidorah. And King Ghidorah, of course, the three-headed golden dragon, in my view, in my uneducated view, I kind of view him as Godzilla's ultimate nemesis. Mm-hmm. And so I think King Ghidorah is a monster that you kind of have to bring into this series if they're going to continue it. And
I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, so, King Ghidorah, King, Monarch, that's kind of where I'm getting it from, that I think Monarch this organization, because it's already established in this movie that they're studying and tracking kaiju. So I think at some point they're going to be responsible for the creation of King Ghidorah in this rebooted universe.
Actually, and I like your idea, and I hope you're right. Mm-hmm. I had my own thought on why they called it Monarch.
Okay.
So this was a government organization. Did you catch? Did they ever explain which government was it U.S. government?
They said it was an international
effort.
Okay. So it wasn't any one government. It was like everyone. Apparently, the way I understood it from the backstory that they explained, after they woke up Godzilla in 1954, like they set up this international organization to study these giant ancient creatures that they all now knew were out there.
Okay, so my thing was they called it Monarch. Well, there's another, and this will ring a bell when I say it.
Yeah.
But there was another supposed organization or project that was allegedly created in the late 40s, early 50s to cover extraterrestrial activity called Majestic.
Okay.
And I kind of thought this might have been like their play on that.
It's possible, yes.
That was my take on it.
Entirely possible. But when I just first saw Monarch, when we first saw Monarch, I thought King Ghidorah was my first thought.
Or will we see Dr. Girlfriend in the next movie?
Pardon?
Venture Brothers.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna say no. Like if they just reveal that the Monarch is behind Monarch.
That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, no, it depends. I don't recall. I know they had said up front there wouldn't be any Toho kaiju in this flick.
Yeah, in this one though. So
yeah,
in future movies.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know if they stated that they would never use them.
I don't think they did, and I don't think they would, because if you stayed up front, we're never going to use any other Toho kaiju in this series. You're pretty much limiting yourself creativity, from a creative standpoint for sequels.
Now, there's one thing I want to kind of get out here. Once I got back from seeing the movie and everything, I, looked up some reviews online because I want to see what other people were saying about it. And by and large, pretty much everyone is saying that this is a really good movie. There is one opinion that I'm going to mention, not because I think it matters, because it was just one person saying it, but because I thought it was kind of funny. And this reviewer was saying, I'm not going to say who because I don't want people going and clicking on their shit, and giving these idiots more views on YouTube. But this individual was saying that, there should have been a more ethnically diverse cast. The fuck? And they were referring to that there should have been more Japanese characters. Now, okay, I can follow this ride so long as it takes for you to say, well, Godzilla is a Japanese movie originally, and it's a Japanese franchise. And that's pretty much where you gotta just get off the train. Because, alright, how many American characters have ever been in Japanese Godzilla movies? You had Steve Martin, you had fucking Sergeant Slaughter lookalike in Final Wars, and Nick Adams, whoever the fuck that was from Godzilla vs. Monster Zero in 1967. Mm-hmm. But you've only really ever had one American character in any of these movies, and it's usually some just kind of tacked on character after the fact that they just put in for the American release. And I don't think it was any kind of, I'm just saying, I think that's a laughable criticism of the movie. I think, that you had, the Dr. Serizawa in this movie plays a far more prominent role than, Steve Martin did in the Godzilla 54 version. Mm-hmm. And a very similar role to what, Steve Martin played in the 85 Godzilla movie. Because Steve Martin in the 85 Godzilla movie pretty much did the same thing. He just walked around saying ominous shit for no apparent reason while everybody drank goddamn Dr. Pepper. And
well, didn't they pay for the Americanization of that film?
I think.
Yeah, in 1954, 1985, right?
Yeah.
In 1985, what was the Japanese version of the movie called? Godzilla.
1984.
No, it was like Godzilla Returns or something. And then the American version was Godzilla 1985.
I think maybe the alternate title, Godzilla 84 was a title for the Japanese version. Mm. I think an alternate title was also Rebirth of Godzilla.
Point being that when they, that Dr. Pepper helped fund that movie, so almost everyone, when they're just kind of sitting around and talking, they're drinking Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
And apparently the U.S. Pentagon is just full of Dr. Pepper vending machines.
Fucking everywhere. Everywhere. I'm surprised Godzilla wasn't drinking one. I'm surprised the fucking Super X didn't shoot fucking cans of Dr. Pepper at him.
No, Super X just shows up and you've got like the Dr. Pepper logo spray painted on the side. No, and then there's like a monster for Godzilla to fight, and it's like Peptor.
Oh god! Except it would have been added in post production for the American release. So, and this was back in the '80s, so it probably would have looked like really weird and crappy on the side of the fucking thing.
God. But yeah, So yeah, nobody's drinking Dr. Pepper around. And yeah, you're right. In that movie, Steve Martin in the 85, 84, film, he just, stands around saying cryptic shit, which is pretty much what Dr. Serizawa does in this movie.
Yeah, so in this case, it was the reverse. It was the Japanese guy in the American Godzilla movie was Steve Martin.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe that's what they were going for. They were going for that kind of inversion.
Well, I mean, really, when we get right down to it, here's the way it works. This isn't a Toho production. They're involved in it, but this is a Legendary Films production. This is a Warner Brothers production. And they are making this movie primarily for distribution in North America and Europe. And, it's a reality that the majority of people in these countries who are white, want to see movies with white people in them. And
or at least English speaking. We'll say English speaking.
English speaking.
And well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, you can't. And there was no overt claim laid at Gareth Edwards for being ethnically insensitive or what have you. No direct levies of that charge, because I would definitely be enraged and calling bullshit. Because I mean, why would you show such respect for, a Japanese franchise as he's obviously done? Even the people who really have not liked the movie, who have any familiarity with Godzilla, have said, he's obviously, tried to show a lot of respect to this franchise and to this character. So no, there's nothing going on there. I just think it was kind of a clever inversion of the roles. Instead of the white guy and surrounded by Japanese military officials and such saying cryptic, silly shit, it was a Japanese guy surrounded by Americans saying cryptic, silly shit. Mm-hmm. And except, in my opinion, Ken Watanabe did it much better than Raymond Burr ever did.
Well, Raymond Burr started to look a lot like Orson Welles near the end there.
Yeah, and I would have liked to have actually, it would have been nice if they just recast Orson Welles in that role for 85. I just think that would have been fucking hilarious.
But, yeah, I didn't have any problems with the film. Honestly, the racial diversity or apparent lack thereof honestly didn't occur to me at all. Like, it just didn't.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I have my theory on things like that. And it's, basically, if you actually have to look for it, then that says more about you than it does about what you're trying to criticize. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In my estimation of it, it was a very good film. My major criticism is completely countered by the fact that it's a thing that Godzilla movies do, which is, hiding Godzilla until the money shot at the end. I thought the fight scenes were fantastic. I actually geeked out a little when I first saw Godzilla's scales glowing blue, because I know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought, oh, it's coming! And then, he had the radioactive breath. And then at the end, when he finally defeats the final Muto, he some Pokemon slip of the tongue there. But when he defeats the final Muto, he grabs it and then shoots his atomic breath down its throat.
Yeah, you kind of think for a second he's going to go for do a King Kong there and just rip its jaws apart.
Yeah.
And just when you're starting to think, oh, really, they're doing that? That's kind of cheap. He just lewdly vomits fire down this thing's fucking throat.
And it just burns from the inside. It's very cool to see. I guess the biggest thing to address, though, that would perhaps surprise people, is that Godzilla, in a lot of ways, is a hero in this. He's a good guy. I mean, he's...
Yeah.
In a lot of times when they try to reboot Godzilla, obviously in the first Godzilla film, he was the antagonist. He was a destructive force of nature. In Godzilla 84, which was their first attempt at rebooting it, he is a destructive force of nature. In the 98 Roland Emmerich film, which, for as much crap as it gets, was attempting to reboot the franchise yet again, he's a destructive force of nature. And then this is the latest reboot, and he's not really. The way they present it is that these Mutos are the destructive ones, and Godzilla is basically just one of their ancient hunters who kind of heard that they were awake, and he's here to mess them up.
Yeah, I think,
Godzilla isn't really in it to actively destroy anything.
No, and in fact, for a good part of the movie, he's being surrounded by U.S. warships.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to mind or anything.
Right. He doesn't do shit to them.
In fact, when he's heading to San Francisco, when he's in San Francisco Bay, he actually, you see him swimming, and his scales are kind of like shark fins, you kind of see them above the water. And you actually see him duck under so he doesn't ram through an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, and that brings me to another thing. The Godzilla in this incarnation is fucking huge. And I mean, I know saying that with Godzilla is kind of, yeah, duh. No, you don't understand. I mean, he's probably at least twice the size of anything Toho has had him be. Well, maybe not so compared to the 2004 Godzilla Final Wars version. Certainly in bulk, though. Godzilla's put on a few pounds. Which that design is getting some criticism. And I know you said that was kind of one thing that you really didn't care for, or maybe not didn't care for, but it's one thing you would like to have seen done differently.
Yeah, again, and the Roland Emmerich's film is really is really the best thing to compare this against, because like this film, the Roland Emmerich film was an American take. It was an American studio trying to do Godzilla. So, if we look at the classic Godzilla design, the Roland Emmerich film completely ignored it. This film, the new design for Godzilla is definitely based on that classic design. And in that regard, I think it's very well done. They didn't try, they decided to give it their own spin on it, but it's not an unnecessary reinvention. And so in that respect, I didn't mind it, but I did think that they made it a bit too bulky, a bit too, fat, for lack of a better term.
I think, I've heard a couple people say that they thought Godzilla was quote unquote cute in this movie. I'm not going to say that, but he actually reminded me of a bear.
Kind of, yeah.
His mannerisms and everything, he reminded me of like a fucking grizzly bear. And I don't know if that's kind of maybe something that they used. Like, okay, well, he has kind of like, I don't know if there was some kind of like template or if it was intentional or not, but his movements and everything kind of seemed like a bear to me.
Mm-hmm. I can see that, yeah.
I don't know. Just something I kind of noticed in retrospect on thinking back on the movie. Mm-hmm. But, I'm going to throw a shot out in the dark here. It is said that there were 6 degrees of separation between any given person and anyone else. So I'm going to throw a shot out in the dark and see if the 6 degrees of separation come into play. If anybody knows anybody who knows anybody who knows anybody who knows anybody who knows Gareth Edwards, tell him I said fucking thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking, actually, that when this movie started, that before the movie started, they just should have had a card up that said, "We're really, really sorry about the last one." Hashtag our bad.
Yeah. A little fake gray.
Yeah. But speaking of Gareth Edwards, actually, I do think he's open to using other Toho kaiju, because he did say that his idea for a sequel would be to explore the Monster Island concept. Which I think kind of implies that you'd have to use at least some other Toho kaiju.
It would be really, I don't know, it definitely would not feel right if he didn't. But, yeah, that would be interesting. I think a bit ambitious. Excuse me. I think it'd be a bit ambitious. At this point, since we're talking about future things with this franchise, my big fear going into it was, there's not going to be a sequel, or worse yet, that I won't want there to be one. And of course, the movie is good enough and then some for me to desire to see a sequel.
If it makes its money back, you'll get a sequel.
Right. And so, which brings me to my next question. I mean, it seems to be on track to be the #1 movie over this weekend, as we record this on Sunday evening. Next weekend, of course, it's going up against X-Men Futures Past, a movie series that I think has kind of outworn a lot of its patience with a lot of people.
First Class was good. And this has a lot of First Class cast, so I think people will be willing to give this one a chance just to see if this can live up to that. if Days of Futures Past is a disaster, I think that's pretty much it for the X-Men franchise in its current form.
Yeah.
But if this can manage to be good, then I think it'll salvage things. But, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of trepidation about the X-Men franchise because, I'd say with the X-Men films, there are a lot more misses than there have been hits.
Yeah, I liked the first movie. I liked First Class. The Wolverine movies were unoffensive.
The first Wolverine movie, Origin, I did not like at all.
Well, maybe, I don't know, it's been a while since I've seen that one. That one might be like the Star Trek Insurrection of the series. Maybe I don't remember it.
But I didn't think the Wolverine was too bad, the one where he went to Japan.
Okay, yeah, no, that one was watchable. I mean, it wasn't great. It was like, okay, well, I guess I could have done worse things for that 2 hours.
And, and just a quick sidebar, in terms of Godzilla making its money back. The budget for Godzilla was $160 million.
Yeah.
It has made over $190 million at the box office so far.
Really? Already?
Yes.
They were shooting for $70 million for this weekend.
I'm looking at some data from Box Office Mojo that says Godzilla 2014 has currently made over $190 million internationally.
Wow.
So I think it's safe to say that Warner Brothers and Legendary are gonna greenlight the sequel on that one because
wow,
this one made its money back and some pretty quickly.
This, sir, calls for a drink. Fucking A. Yeah, no, in my wildest dreams, I won't say I wouldn't say that I didn't think the movie would be this good, though part of me did. I figured that even if I loved it, it would just flop. Because fuck me, that's why. And, but evidently that's not the case, so. Yeah, it's
made over $90 million in North America, $190 million, over $190 million internationally for a worldwide gross of $190 million, which is already exceeding its budget, so.
Good fucking deal. Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to it. Outside of Rodan, my favorite kaiju, I like Mechagodzilla and I like King Ghidorah. So I'd like to see those two at least once at some point. That's my personal wish.
I don't see my own bias aside, because I've said my issue's never been with Mechagodzilla itself. My issue's been with how much it's been overused.
This is a new continuity, though, so.
Right, but the thing is, though, the overall tone of this reboot, I don't see there being a Mechagodzilla.
I'm saying that there's always going to be some scientist out there who's crazy enough to say, let's make that into a robot.
Well, I won't disagree. I definitely would not disagree. I just don't think they're going to put it into a movie. Yeah, I definitely would. Yeah, I don't see. It would just be a bit too out in left field for this reboot, I think. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if, they go a slightly different direction, they decide to lighten things up a little bit.
Mechagodzilla doesn't have to be lighthearted.
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying maybe give less fucks about justifying where these things come from.
I don't think someone build a giant Godzilla robot. That seems like something Japan would do.
I see it being more, given what we've seen of this franchise so far. I think your theory about King Ghidorah is much more plausible and much more likely.
Mm-hmm.
That I could see. I think we'll see, probably, since the Mutos have been well received by pretty much everybody. I think we can expect to see a lot more original kaiju, which will hopefully be as good and as interesting as these were. I guess we'll see where it goes, but,
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, it's time to move on from Godzilla to a movie that has not yet come out, but the theatrical trailer has, Transformers Age of Extinction. After a couple teaser trailers, we finally got the full theatrical trailer. And like with Godzilla, I'm going to start off, Jack, by asking you your initial thoughts.
Meh. I'm really not liking the implications of Galvatron being made by humans. I'm really not liking that.
From what I gather, they make him out of Megatron's decapitated, discarded corpse from the end of Dark of the Moon.
And then we'll get to that later, but I'll just throw this out now. And if the toy's any indication, they give him fucking chipmunk cheeks. But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't, I really don't like that idea in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think this entire, my opinion on this movie is kind of shifting from cautiously optimistic to fearfully pessimistic. It's beginning to feel to me like the entire thing is riding on, no pun intended, Optimus Prime riding Grimlock in the trailer, and that's probably going to be like the highlight of the whole fucking movie, and then everything else is going to be like, whatever. And is it me, or does it look like Hound's shooting from his fucking finger?
I don't know. The way that these things often transform weaponry out of their hands, it's entirely possible. I didn't get a good look at that. But I will say I'm optimistic about this. Galvatron being a human creation doesn't, we've been hearing that this movie would feature human-made Transformers for a while now, so I'm not all that didn't really surprise me all that much. I could really take it or leave it, honestly. I'm interested to see how they're gonna do Lockdown. Lockout, not lock.
No, Lockdown. You're right.
Yeah, Lockdown. Sorry, yeah, Lockdown. I'm interested to see how they do him because he's being presented very cryptically. We see a couple shots of him. I know his general backstory from animated. He's appeared in IDW a couple times, with generally speaking the same kind of backstory. So I'm interested to see how that works out. I'm interested to see what he's doing on Earth. And, really, the Autobots, the Dinobots, for example, I mean, just how those function is gonna be very cool to see, I think. It'll be, like Dark of the Moon, and like the first film, it'll be a movie that visually, I think, is very stunning. Maybe the plot won't be all that up to snuff. One thing that I found kind of funny, they have Mark Wahlberg, and Mark Wahlberg is kind of giving Optimus Prime maybe you've got to look at us for what we could be, not what we are. And that's all inspiring and whatnot, except for the fact that Optimus Prime said that exact same thing to Ironhide in the first film, and now Mark Wahlberg has to remind Optimus Prime of that, and I'm like, what, Optimus Prime has to be taught his own lessons now?
Well, maybe he's just that sick and tired of our shit. I mean...
Yeah.
Basically, Ironhide being maybe perhaps a little quick to judge, and Optimus Prime now having seen just what a bunch of fucking dipshits we are, is just kind of like, God, fuck these people. Yeah. And then, of course, we get Marky Mark coming in to be his inspiration, and we know that's going to be a fucking failure.
I don't have the same hatred. I don't share the same hatred for Mark Wahlberg that you do, sir. So we'll have to agree to disagree on that. But I'm not excited that Mark Wahlberg's in it. But I think he's a step up from Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, I have no issue with Shia LaBeouf.
I didn't have any issue with Shia LaBeouf either, honestly, but I think Shia LaBeouf gave out he has a certain negative connotation to the public these days that I think would honestly hurt any movie he was in.
No. We should have got fucking Nicolas Cage.
No, God.
Yeah, yes, fucking totally.
So he can make constipated faces at the camera?
Okay, I got a scene in mind. So, Bumblebee rolls up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the bees!
God. Oh, that's amazing.
Make this happen, Mr. Bay. Amuse me.
But, yes. Age of Extinction, something I am looking forward to it, because with all new characters, I think it kind of gives them a chance to start over. It kind of gives them a chance to reboot the franchise without, rebooting it. And in that sense, I think it'll be good. Maybe we can get this thing back on track and give the movie, I guess, the shot in the dark that it would really need to kind of escape the negative stigma. The shot in the arm it needs to escape that negative stigma that it kind of garnered through Dark of the Moon and Revenge of the Fallen.
My thing with it, I guess, Mark Wahlberg, whatever, it's like, again, this is one of those movies where I'm not going to it to give a shit what happens with the humans. I really don't.
Mm.
If they had a Transformers movie that took place entirely on Cybertron with not a human to be seen, I think it'd probably be the best fucking movie they've done.
Well, the thing is, that's not going to happen because focus groups.
Not even that. A much more intelligent reason being the CGI budget.
Yes.
Would be really fucking high on that. And I kind of disagree on the focus group things because look at, I guess we're comparing apples and oranges here, but War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, both very successful games, took place entirely on Cybertron, as the name would imply, and no one's had an issue with it. Mm. The IDW comics, a lot of those, not a human to be seen, all on Cybertron and on other venues in space. Again, no problems. I disagree with this notion that, human characters are needed in these movies. And I think it would be interesting to see them just gotten rid of, and let's just see the giant robots we came to see. That being said, though, at the end of the day, what's really going to determine how I feel about the movie isn't going to be what they do with the humans. It'll kind of be like Godzilla. It will help not bring the movie down for them being there. And, if it's a good performance, it'll make me not be mad that I'm not seeing robots smashing shit to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's bad, then it's going to be like, God damn it, where are the fucking robots? It's going to be one of those deals like it was with Godzilla.
Well, interestingly enough, Ken Watanabe will be providing the voice for Drift, which kind of, I would assume, killed the rumors that Drift will be the one speaking Mandarin Chinese because Ken Watanabe being Japanese, I'm not sure if he even speaks Mandarin. So,
or maybe they're just fucking having him speak Japanese and calling it Mandarin.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
I know that sounds ridiculous, and it would be, but let's just kind of put things into perspective here. Would it really be all that surprising?
True. So that's where, and of course, John Goodman coming in as Hound. I think that, given Hound's character model, I think that's an inspired choice, honestly.
Yeah, Bulkhead with a different name.
I'm interested to see how Bulkhead-ish he is. His character design is very Bulkhead-like, but Bulkhead has a specific kind of character archetype in my mind, so it'd be interesting to see if this has anything to do with it. And if this portrayal of Hound is nothing like Bulkhead, then I'll kind of forgive the Bulkhead-esque design of the CGI model.
And God damn it, why does Bulkhead have a beard?
It's Michael Bay's Transformers movie. He does weird shit like that. Wheeljack / Q in Dark of the Moon had like Einstein-esque hair, I guess. So that bridge has been crossed already, I guess.
Yeah, I know, but it's shit like that though. that makes people be like, oh God, really? Mm-hmm. You know, it's shit like that actually, you know, is giving these movies that kind of negative stigma. Just retarded shit like that. And can we just go ahead and not do those things? Mm-hmm. You're not going to detract anything from the movie by not doing stupid.
Yeah.
You know, you're not hurting anything, just damn it, stop it.
Well, in terms of the character designs, we have in-hand pictures of Wave 2 of the Age of Extinction Voyager toys. We have pictures of Voyager-class Galvatron and Voyager-class Hound. And you and I were talking about this, and I think we come to the agreement that we're seeing basically two different ends of the competency spectrum here.
Yeah, Hound looks pretty damn good. I mean, okay, you've got this rather blocky military vehicle, mm-hmm. and he transforms into a rather rotund robot with very little, you know, kibble or anything like that to be seen.
Yeah, everything sort of tucks away nicely. Excuse me there. Yawned, but yeah, everything seems to tuck away nicely, so he doesn't have big bits of vehicle hanging off of him in robot mode.
Right, then you've got Kibbletron.
Yeah, Galvatron wears his entire truck alternate mode on his back.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, if you've seen the pictures, this is not an exaggeration. Pretty much the whole fucking alt mode is hanging from his back. And just to emphasize that, they've colored the robot portion like a much lighter shade of gray than the truck portion, just so that you know how shitty their engineering was on this.
Yeah, like you look at the robot mode, and you see this dark gray backpack that doesn't match anything else, and that's his truck mode. And then in truck mode, even if you look at it from the side, you see this dark gray, you know, truck cab, but then his legs, which form the bed of the truck, are like distinctively lighter shades. So you can easily tell just by looking at it that they're essentially two completely different aspects. He's not transforming from one into the other. He's sort of unfolding from the truck mode, and then the truck mode kind of folds away on his back.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be, you know, I don't know what the transformation is. I haven't seen any reviews or anything like that online, and I certainly don't have the figure. I'm not going to get the figure, because this whole shell former aspect is just the first of my litany of issues with this figure. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely not fucking getting it. I might actually I might be interested in Hound, just because it seems pretty cool.
Also, he seems to come with a lot of weapons.
Indeed, and weapons are good. But yeah, you know, you've got this shell former backpack of a truck on his back. You've got, his legs, like from the side, it looks like they only made half of them.
Yeah, his legs, it's like the front part of his shins and his thighs are there, but then like, they're wafer thin, and they're bulked out by truck tires on its back, and I guess points for creative ways to store the tires, but it still looks kind of cheap when you look at it from the side.
Yeah. Then you've got the face. And I've seen, I mean, if you look at the box art for the toy, that doesn't seem to be indicative of what the actual character, of what Galvatron's actual face in the movie looks like. Mm-hmm. But the toy, it looks like it's got fucking chipmunk cheeks.
The face sculpt is not very strong, and it looks more than a little inaccurate.
Yeah, it's ass. and what the... Okay, the thing in the chest. Again, I know this is in the character design from the movie, but the way it's portrayed on the toy, it looks like he's just got like a fucking fleshlight in the middle of his goddamn chest.
It can be that if you want it to be, sir.
I don't know. I don't know if it would fit. Is the problem?
Well, these are made for children.
I mean, well, no. I mean, I just don't want. Well, frankly, I'm afraid it might be a bit big for that. I mean, it's a pretty big hole.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the character design. I'm not a big fan of. It kind of looks like it's kind of got a bit of an Iron Man thing going with the giant, like, power reactor in the middle of his chest, and I suppose that'll be played up as part of the human-made design, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, again, I'm more talking about how the toy is presented and everything here. It's not so much I think the character design is going to be shitty. I haven't seen really enough of it other than the glimpses from the trailers to really tell you for sure. But it just seems like to me that as far as the toy goes, they did great on Hound, but they really phoned in Galvatron.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I just
I'm inclined to agree on that. I am inclined to agree. Let's move on to some other images we've got here. We've got 2 new Dinobots revealed. Now, the Dinobots that were revealed that will be in the film were the 2-headed Pteranodon named Strafe, Grimlock, the T-Rex, obviously, Slug, who was the Triceratops, Scorn, the Spinosaurus, and I forget the Velociraptor's name.
Ubiquitous?
Oh, God. I forget the Velociraptor's name, but there's a Velociraptor in there too. Apparently Hasbro has come out with 2 new Dinobot toys. These are going to be entirely toy-centric characters. You will not see them in the movie.
Thanks, fuck.
But they seem to have at least some of the same general design cues. So if you are collecting the movie Dinobots, you can still collect these guys and put on your shelf, and they don't look like they'd be that out of place. And what we've got are Snarl and Slog.
Slag.
They can't call them Slag anymore because that means prostitute in the United Kingdom.
Well, you know, for one thing, God bless British slang. I love it so much. A second thing being, you know what? Fuck it. Give that name to like Alita 1 or RC or something.
Oh.
That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, God.
Let's do it. Let's do this. Okay. We'll start with probably the good cop opinion. What do you think of these toys?
I like I think it's an Apatosaurus or a Bronchiosaurus.
I'd say probably whatever the fuck Hasbro wants it to be a Saurus, but if I had to classify it, I'd say Brachiosaurus.
Yeah, it's kind of got a little nudge on the forehead, which I guess could be the nostrils that Brachiosaurus had on top of his head. I like him. It's a Brachiosaurus with 2 swords, like, perched over his shoulders. And
because fuck you, that's why.
That's just crazy enough to work. And he transforms into a robot mode that, continuing with the theme of the movie-centric Dinobots for Age of Extinction, has a very Night-like look to him. So I dig that. I dig the Brachiosaurus, who I think this is going to be Slog. I think that's his name. Snarl, the Stegosaurus, I'm not so hot on.
Yeah.
I think his robot mode is fine as far as a robotic Stegosaurus goes.
That color, though. That color.
And he very lime bright green. And
yo, dog, I heard you like Dayglow.
His robot mode, I don't like. He's got a very broad chest, a very small waist, and very gangly legs. He looks
what the
very
fuck is up with those arms? Especially that right arm. What the fuck is up with that shit?
His left arm looks fine, I think. But his right arm, it's very gangly. It looks like it's unfolding, I think. Like, I get the feeling his left arm is his tail in dinosaur mode. And like they couldn't figure out how to make it transform into a decent looking arm, so it just sort of this unwieldy slashing weapon.
Yeah, that's kind of, they're like, yeah, what are we going to do with this? And this guy's just like, we'll put it here. See, I make fit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And again, like I said, very wide, Upper body, very insignificant, gangly lower body. I don't like it. The proportions are all off. Again, I like the Brachiosaurus guy. I think he works in robot mode. I mean, he's kind of a stumpy, small guy, but all of his proportions seem to fit. All of his proportions seem to work with each other. And all of his limbs seem relatively fine. But, yeah, this Snarl, the Stegosaurus's robot mode is not doing it for me at all.
Yeah, Slag there looks like, he's definitely the stronger of the two figures, and I'm looking at his arms though, and even they look like they've got that fucking tail hand shit going on. You know, he's definitely the stronger of the two, and he's actually kind of interesting in his own way. Like you say, he's got that knight shit going on, especially there, the shoulder pads, and he's got the fucking, doctor recommended syphilitic aid cod piece going on.
I'm gonna say though, between the Dinobots having a knight aesthetic, between them really pushing the Silver Knight Optimus Prime, deco for, repaints, and between, the BotCon set, Knights have been getting a lot of play in Transformers lately.
Yeah, and though now with Optimus Prime, it depends on which version you're talking about. It's either the Silver Knight repaint or the Silver Knight not bothered to paint at all. Yeah.
Yeah, in some cases, they seem to be using the whole Silver Knight Optimus Prime thing as an excuse to be like, we'll cast it in gray plastic and then paint like a few small details and then the rest of it will be fine.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just really not digging a lot of what I'm seeing lately.
There are a few things that I'm interested in.
I mean, there are with me too, but very few.
I'm not gonna lie though, the movie stuff, there will be a few AOE, toys that I check out. Mostly Dinobots. Although I probably will check out, not a leader class Optimus Prime, but probably a smaller Optimus Prime toy just to see how the design works in toy form. But all in all, most of my Transformers interest on the toy side of things is falling on Generations.
Yeah.
Because my big interest in Transformers on the fiction side of things these days is IDW.
Right.
And Generations seems to be embracing the IDW designs. So I'll be chilling out with my Generations and we'll be having a good time, and then everyone else with their, one-step transformations and their gangly tail arms, they can, have that party to themselves, and that'll be fine.
Yeah, it's pretty much my plan too. I mean, the Generations figures continue to be fairly decent, for the most part, and, we've just, today seen some pics of Generations Roadbuster, yes?
Yes, we did. Generations Roadbuster in package along with Generations Skybite. Skybite, of course, is the robotic shark from the Robots in Disguise anime that filled the gap between Beast Machines and Armada. Kind of a very goofy, silly character, but one that kind of got a lot of fans' attention. I don't really mind him because his original toy kind of sucked, and he had a decent BotCon toy, which was a repaint of Energon Sharkticon, but of course being a BotCon toy, super rare. So the fact that Skybite's getting a new toy, I'll probably pass on it because even though I kind of do like the character, Beast Formers right now really aren't my thing outside of maybe some movie Dinobots. So a robotic shark isn't something I'm all that eager to jump on, but I do like Generations Roadbuster. He looks spiffy.
Yeah, the Generations Roadbuster looks pretty cool.
And I think like Generations Roadbuster will come with some old-fashioned stickers, which should be fun.
Yeah, that too. I'm looking at Skybite. Yeah, he's not bad actually. I mean, and I loathe Beast Formers. I just really do.
Well, Skybite, the original Skybite toy came from that weird period where they were transitioning back to traditional robot modes, but they had like traditional vehicle modes, but they still had a bunch of engineering left over from the Beast era, so they kind of mixed it in. And Skybite kind of came from that.
Gears. Now that's kind of interesting.
Gears is a repaint of Generation Swerve. Generation Swerve was based off of his IDW design.
Yeah, I might actually check that out just for sheer nostalgia's sake. Gears is never a favorite of mine, I'll be honest with you. He's always just kind of there and yeah, what the fuck ever. But I remembered having it as a kid. Mm-hmm. And just as a sheer nostalgia buy, I might pick him up because the design's actually pretty decent on him. Well, for what he is.
I've got Swerve, which is basically this. It's basically the same toy with a different head.
Yeah,
and he's a solid. They're calling these Legends toys, but they're much bigger. But they are bigger and more complex than your traditional Legends toys. So you're actually getting a pretty decent value in terms of quality, I guess is a good way to say it.
Yeah.
So I like that. Of course, Swerve being based off of his IDW design, which I'm a big fan of, makes him all the better for me. But even with that in mind, on a purely toy level, he's really good. He's got a very simple transformation, but it is exactly what it has to do, and it doesn't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Swerve is one of those toys that you can just sort of watch TV or something and just kind of like mindlessly transform him back and forth a bunch of times, and he totally works in both modes. So, if you get Gears, I think you'll have a lot of fun with them.
Acid Storm. What the fuck? What the fuck's going on with it? Why are we doing Dayglow?
You don't remember. You don't remember the Rainmakers, do you?
That was probably when I'd said fuck it and had given up for a few years.
No, they're from the G1 cartoon. Hang on just a second. I have to pull it up here on TF Wiki.
I know what Acid Storm is based on. I know that.
I'm just gonna send you this link and you can click on it at your leisure.
Right, yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm. I get it. I just don't...
Well, basically the way it works is Starscream's traditionally repaint. This is of course based off of, this Acid Storm toy is of course based off of Generations Starscream.
Right.
The Legends scale toy of Starscream.
Right.
And apparently they wanted to repaint it, but they didn't want to repaint it as Skywarp or Thundercracker because they always do that. So Acid Storm is a quick and easy way to get a Starscream repaint out without it being, I guess, passé.
I get it. That's not my problem with it. My problem is simply, and yeah, I know, I've seen the picture and I get even the coloring in that picture is kind of like a neon greenish, but god damn, that's hideous. If they'd gone with again, like a less offensive green, something not quite so fucking garish.
Well, when they repainted the classic Seeker toy into Acid Storm a few years back, they actually avoided the garish green color and they just made him green camo.
See, I wouldn't have even done that. Just, a uniform green, but not something that amounts to ocular rape. Just, maybe like a forest green or something like that, Or somewhere in the middle between like a dark green and where he's at now, which is that ultra bright, kind of like that same green that they use on that Stegosaurus there.
Yeah.
These bright colors, these bright pastel 1990s-ish colors just aren't doing it for me.
Well, that is the latest on Generations. Gears looks fun. Robuster looks amazing. I'm probably going to pass on Skybite, but, that'll leave him available for more Skybite fans, and they'll probably appreciate him more than I do.
I might actually, ironically, pick that up, because it's kind of interesting.
It is a very interesting design. But speaking of interesting designs, we have gotten our first look at Batman, Ben Affleck as Batman from the upcoming Batman vs. Superman movie. Now, At the end of our last, basically, a sports show episode, I asked Zach, longtime Batman fan, what he thought of it. He did not care for the small, tiny ears.
Yeah, I'm with him on that.
I get kind of where they're coming from because Batman has had those small, stubby ears before. It's not unprecedented, but it's still not ideal, and I get where a lot of the criticism's coming from.
Yeah, I don't really care for it.
I also get where they're in a lot of ways. This seems like it's based off of the New 52 Batman design in the comic books. In that it looks a good way to describe it, and of course, stubby ears aside. But it also kind of looks like the same kind of general concept behind Batman the Animated Series, where it's not so much an armored suit as much as it is, like, kind of just a gray costume.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, they're definitely going a different route than they did with the Nolan trilogy. And,
he was basically wearing body armor in that one.
Right, yeah, exactly. And they're doing it different here, and that's fine. Those ears.
They're really stubby, and again, the big thing that I think, and I don't think I'd have a problem with the ears otherwise, because in the comics he does sometimes have those, depending on the artist. But the big thing that kills the ears for me in this film is,
that they're on Ben Affleck?
Well, aside from that, it's that, the stubby ears, I think, are irreversibly tied to the Adam West Batman costume.
Yeah.
And
that was the first thing I thought when I seen it.
I mean, when Adam West's Batman costume had those very stubby ears, and no offense to Mr. West, but I think we're all in agreement that modern Batman movies should not try to evoke the Adam West series.
No, they really shouldn't.
And whatever people have to say about the Christopher Nolan series, he did a damn good job not evoking the Adam West Batman series.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, you're not going to see Heath Ledger's Joker fighting Adam West Batman.
Though if only we could. That would be 2 hours of my life very well spent.
And of course, this is a black and white image. We're getting a Ben Affleck in the Bat costume. We will have, there have been colorized versions that, kind of bring out some of the details better. All in all, if I'm taking the whole package, I don't mind it, but those ears, I have to agree with, Jack here, and I have to agree with, Zach over at Basically a Sports Show. Those ears, man, that's gonna be a tough sell.
And I'm not even saying, if they want to make it stand out and be different, okay, you can make them short, just not that short.
Yeah.
I mean, there's short and then there's afterthought.
Indeed. But we also kind of get a bit of a view of the, Batmobile in the background.
Which I like.
See, and I said this on basically a sports show, I'll say it again, I really liked the Tumbler from the Batman series. From the Nolan series. I really liked that Tumbler. The Tumbler design. And this is this seems like a traditional Batmobile design mixed with some Tumbler-esque aspects.
Yeah.
We'll see how it looks. I don't know. When I just see that traditional Batmobile type of sleeked design, my mind is sort of forever tainted by the Joel Schumacher movies.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Though for me, I've tried to kind of drink those away over the years. And I just remember, the 89 movie, and I love that Batmobile, and that's kind of what it makes me think of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like what I'm seeing with this new Batmobile. The Tumbler from the Nolan trilogy, I didn't dislike. It was kind of cool. It was cool. It had its good points to it. but it never really quite sold it to me as a Batmobile. It was a really cool armored fucking vehicle that would blow the fuck out of anything that Batman rode around in, but was it a Batmobile? And I just couldn't really say yes on that. So I like the new Batmobile. I think it's pretty nice. Much better than those fucking years. But, yeah, I like it.
Alrighty, well, speaking of vehicles, let's move on to episode 5 of Azeroth Choppers.
I mean, not really a lot going on.
We did get to see part of the finished bikes, so I guess as fans of the game, what do you think from what we've seen of the bikes? What are your thoughts?
Oh God, I hate having to say this. I actually kind of like the Horde bike better.
The Horde bike, I think, is getting closer to better representing the Horde aesthetic than the Alliance's.
Right.
But to be fair, the Alliance one is far from done, and a lot of what they were talking about that they're going to do to the Alliance bike seems very cool. Excuse me. We're talking like bronze detailing on the armor, and they're talking about basing the handle grips off of the handles of King Rin's sword for the Alliance. So I think that conceptually the Alliance bike can be very cool. It's just not there yet.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I mean, one of the Horde, the team Horde guys, he's not even there. So the Horde bike is further along with 2 guys working on it. The Alliance bike, I don't know. I get what they're doing with it. I thought it was kind of funny when, the Blizzard guy's like, okay, now this whole segmented thing you've got going on here, this kind of looks like a Nerubian. They're like, what?
Yeah, Blizzard needs to realize that they can't be using nerd language with non-nerds.
Nerd motherfucker, do you speak it?
Well, it's when you start talking about like Nerubians to people who don't play the game, they just look at you like you're a crazy person because you're speaking nonsense.
I know, I've tried it. The cashier at Wendy's was not impressed. There's a Nerubian in my Frosty.
Yeah. So I did think that's funny because when you're talking about, the Blizzard guys who obviously are all nerds, they kind of love this World of Warcraft universe. And then you've got mechanics working on these bikes who are not nerds. So whenever they get together, it's always like this clash of worlds, and it's very fun. It's very fun, and it's very fun to watch the awkwardness, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because like the Blizzard guys start geeking out and like, oh well, this looks more Nerubian than Alliance, and like the mechanics are like, we don't know what the fuck you're just saying words.
Words. Yeah, that was kind of amusing. And they're like, well, no, what we're going to do with it, the bike guy, he took it in stride. He just kind of like, well, I don't know what you're saying, but whatever you're saying, it's not what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And the guy's like, oh yeah, that's going to be cool, man. So,
Yeah. I did like at the end when they show, like the preview for the next episode. And, they show like some guy on Team Alliance tells another guy to do something. And the guy just goes, no. And then he just walks off.
No, I don't want to.
I'm like, I wish I could do that at my job. Like when people tell me to do stuff that I don't want to do. Like, does that work? Does that work at any other place of employment where like people can just tell me, like, do this? No, I'm not gonna.
Again, emulating the raiding environment.
Yeah, it does.
Get out of the fire. No.
Could you take your pet off of attack? No.
Yeah.
So yeah. In that way, I think without realizing it, they are emulating the experience that is actually playing World of Warcraft with other people. So in that respect, well done, guys. Well done.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's really, it's kind of interesting, you know, with all this happening. No new Warlords of Draenor news, not really.
No, there's really not a whole lot happening. I mean, you're seeing some things here and there, most of it having to do with like class balancing and shit like that. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the big controversies that keeps popping up with this, with Warlords of Draenor in general, is the talk of possibly not having flying at all.
Didn't they say, though, that was going to be 91?
Well, no, they said it was going to be at least until patch 6.1.
Yeah.
Initially at level 100.
Level 100, yes.
Yeah. And now they're saying they don't know if they're going to put it in at all. And, you know, there's been a lot of argument on both sides of this on the forums, both MMO Champion on the WoW forums. Blizzard has had to address it a few times and tell people, well, you know, we haven't decided yet. We're waiting on feedback and to see how things end up in the finished product. We're not committing to anything one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And, so we know for sure we're not getting flying at least until patch 6.1, which will probably be, you know, of a few weeks after Draenor launches. Mm-hmm. And maybe not at all. And a lot of people are really pissed about this. I'm not one of them.
Okay.
My only thing with this, my only concern about the prospect of not having flying at all in Draenor is actually pretty basic and simple. It's that you've got people who actually paid money for flying mounts. And yes. I guess the argument's there that, well, you know, you can still use them everywhere you used them before. And I'm sure they'll go in and make them, you know, they have gone in and they've actually made things all flying mounts to be usable as ground mounts.
Yeah.
Whereas before that wasn't always the case, especially with some of the dragons.
Yeah.
So I guess they'll say that. And, you know, they have a point technically, but, you know, that is kind of a valid argument for some. And I haven't really read these threads to see the rage and everything because you pretty much already know what's going to be said. And
unsubscribe now.
Right. This game is going to shit and all this other stuff. You know, they want to try something different. They've said, you know, based on feedback and how things work out, they'll adjust accordingly. I'm not too broken up about it. I've noticed one thing though, that all the mounts that they're talking about bringing into the game, and they showed a few new ones like a mechanized warhorse and all this other shit. They're all ground mounts. Mm-hmm. And, you know, also look at these choppers, ground mounts again. And I think maybe that might be part of this impetus behind the Azeroth Chopper thing is, you know, get people excited about ground mounts or, you know, these mounts at least that are ground mounts.
Well, that's in a lot of ways why I'm not, like, if they decided to not have flying at all in Warlords of Draenor, I'm not all that broken up about it because, honestly, when they brought flying into the vanilla world in the game, it rendered ground mounts completely useless. And I think that's a shame. Because if you're, for example, if you're a paladin or a warlock, you get a special mount that only your class can get. And it's more or less rendered useless. So, kind of having an area where ground mounts are practical and where ground mounts actually serve a purpose, I'm fine with that. Truth be told, if I could do anything, I'd take flying away out of the main world anyway.
I don't see them doing that. Because it's already there and it's actually needed for some of the Cataclysm content now. So I don't see that. I don't see them changing anything. I see them probably, you know, if they leave it out of Draenor altogether, they'll like go back once the expansion after Draenor goes live. Mm-hmm. Or maybe at the very end of Draenor and make it to where you can fly. Probably after the last tier of raid content has been, you know, probably the same stage that we are right now with Siege of Orgrimmar. Probably, you know, they would go ahead and make flying available at that point. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of the reasons that you've said, I'm fine with that. You know, when Pandaria came out, and people were bitching. People were bitching, even though Blizzard, with the one exception being Cataclysm, which was a necessity based on how that expansion was designed. With that one exception, you've never been able to fly at the start of an expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And people were bitching horribly about it with Pandaria. And I thought it was awesome. I mean, I actually, for those few weeks when I was leveling and everything and before I could fly, it was, having an experience in the game that I hadn't really felt that way about since Lich King.
It really let you explore this new world.
Yeah.
It gave you a sense of exploration that had been lacking, I thought.
Yeah, and there's times when I, before you won your goddamn chopper from the fucking Blingtron.
Ha 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 ha.
Jesus.
Yeah.
But, you'd hop in my chopper and we'd go fucking touring around and getting ourselves killed willy-nilly. And that was cool shit, man,
How much did you pay for your chopper, I have to ask?
Fuck you. I paid,
how many thousands of gold?
I don't know, 15,000?
I got mine for free because I won it from a Blingtron.
You know what? Fuck you. Just fucking asshole.
Ha, ha, ha. Okay.
Yeah, hey, guess what, Jack? I'm getting Warlords of Draenor for free. I won it from a Blingtron. Like, that's not even in the game. I know, right? Fuck.
Yeah, Blingtrons love me. Blingtrons love me.
Yeah, they do.
But anyhow, with that, I can't say that I'm all that broken up. If they don't have flying in Draenor at all, I won't be bothered.
Actually, the more I think about it, at first I was marginally miffed. Just kind of like, well, I've got some of these really cool flying mounts. And there is one thing exploration-wise to be said for flying, and that it really helps you kind of like from a bigger perspective that you don't get on the ground. It really helps you kind of enjoy what you see from the air in a way that taking the pre-made flight paths just really doesn't duplicate.
Mm-hmm.
And there is that. And that's really the only valid argument I can make for flying. And it's not even one that I've seen really made.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have it in the expansion until the very end or expansion after, I'm actually okay with that. In fact, I think it'll be a good thing, at least to a degree.
Agreed.
Good night, everybody.
And with that, we are going to close out episode 15 of Basically a Geek Show. You can email us at basicallyageekshow@gmail.com. You can check us out at basicallyasportshow.com. Also check us out on Stitcher and YouTube. Or Spreaker and YouTube. This has been Mike for Jack. We'll catch you next week.